Let's also talk about the deal that was done just last week involving the debt ceiling and the increased spending caps as a practical matter. Was that a good deal?
Look, I think it's very important that there was an agreement that makes it very unlikely, assuming Congress passes the agreement, that there will either be a government shutdown or a crisis over the funding of our debt. I think getting those issues off the table is really important, and I give a lot of credit to Speaker Pelosi, who managed to negotiate with the administration under difficult circumstances and will now be hopefully shepherding that across the finish line. I think that there's no question but that there is going to be an impact on the deficit because of the agreement. And I think one has to look at where we are now, not by looking at a snapshot of what this agreement did, but by taking a step back and looking at where we've been over the last 3 years. The hugest driver of the deficit has been the tax cut. There's going to be a need at some point to come to terms with what that's done to our fiscal sustainability. I don't think that having a fight over either default or a government shutdown would have been good for the country, for the economy, or for the global economy. So I think, yes, it is a good deal. And I, as I say, give a lot of credit to, under very adverse circumstances, working out a bipartisan agreement.
So you mentioned the tax cut, which was a fiscal stimulus, a lot of deficit. And frankly, even this increase in the spending caps is another form of fiscal stimulus. I have a chart here I can put up, but particularly on the defense side, this is a lot more dollars being pumped into the economy than otherwise would be there. Are we getting our money's worth? Because we're running up deficits. Are we encouraging building the economy the extent to which we're running up the deficit?
Yeah. I think you have to distinguish the different policies. I do not think we're getting our money's worth out of the tax cut. I think that there has been very little evidence that the tax cut led to the kind of increase in investment that it was intended to produce. I think it's increased the inequality, both of the way we treat current income, but also the accumulation of wealth. And I think it's taken problems that we have and made them worse. There was a way to do tax reform and pay for it. That would have been the right answer. That's what we worked on, and we were negotiating with, then Chairman and Speaker Ryan to try and do. By taking a different path, by spending $2 trillion that we didn't have on a tax cut that does not address the real needs of the country, I think we've created a fiscal problem that will hang over us, not just today and tomorrow, but for a long time. We're in at a moment where we've had a historically long period of growth. We're late in the business cycle. A moment will come when there's going to be a need to respond to the business cycle taking a downturn. And instead of coming into it strong, we're going to be coming into it having spent our money when the economy was growing. I think that was a mistake in the case of the tax bill. Yeah. As I said, in terms of this spending agreement, the alternative of not having an agreement would have done harm to the economy, would have ultimately, I think, reduced revenues because the economy would have been hurt by it.
So, Jack, that's a compelling criticism. Let's talk about the alternative. Do you see right now, looking forward to 2020, any of the candidates coming forward with an economic plan that really makes sense?
Well, look, I think that you're seeing a lot of the candidates talk about new ideas, big ideas. They say they're paying for them. The question will be whether the ways of paying for them really hold water. I think if you go back not just to the campaign, but to when the Democrats took control of the House, they put pay-as-you-go rules back into place in the House. Candidates on the Democratic side are saying we need to pay for the things that we need to do in this country. I think that's an important step. It obviously doesn't correct the damage of the tax cut. That's going to take some much more difficult bipartisan effort. But I think it is an important thing that you're hearing Democrats talking about paying for things. My own view is that they can't all fit. These ideas are going to turn out to be more than can be paid for. But that is what budgets are about, is what governing is about. You end up making choices and you pick the most important things and take them on first.